Okay, you're very welcome, everybody, to the DSS Hurling Pod. We're previewing this Sunday's All-Ireland Hurling Final between Limerick and Kilkenny. Myself, Barry Mullane, DD Sports Science Hurling Coach, and Down Manager Ronan Sheehan. You're very welcome, Ronan.
No bother. Cheers, Barry. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So it's All-Ireland Hurling Final week. My favourite weekend of the year is the hurling final. What's your favorite thing about hurling final day?
I just like walking towards the ground and knowing you're surrounded by other hurling people. I suppose when you're kind of in a county like Down and places like that, the number of hurling people is relatively limited at times. So I suppose days like that, it almost feels like a pilgrimage to go to Croke Park and to be surrounded by fellow hurling people on what's the biggest day of the hurling calendar. I think unfortunately probably COVID took away from it a wee bit, and what I mean by that is that probably the 7-a-side tournaments and those things probably haven't fully recovered from that. It used to be a fantastic weekend, the Kilmacud, St Jude's and stuff. I know that we would have always have played in St Jude's. We haven't been down in a couple of years since the COVID piece, so I think it's maybe lost a wee bit of that. And even the fact that you see that both Limerick and kind of Kilkenny aren't staying the night of the final and they're heading back down home, probably takes away a wee bit from the whole occasion of the full weekend as a package. But I think that'll come back around the time. I think there's very, very clear circumstances around why some of the hotels and stuff like that are as scarce as they are, and the cost of them. So hopefully that will start to right itself over the next couple of years, and we'll get back to having the All-Ireland weekend we probably all know and love. But certainly walking down kind of Jones's Road, walking down, being around the pubs before the match is probably my favourite part of it, in terms of just being surrounded by hurling people, meeting people you haven't even met probably in 6-12 months, and just getting to chat about the game we love.
Yeah, no, I love that as well. I lived in Dublin for a long time, and I live near enough to Croke Park, and so I love kind of being around town Saturday night to see who was around, not really going for pints or anything like that. I was just seeing the crowd around, the buzz around town the night before, and then obviously that walk then down to Jones's Road. There's some great walks in hurling, like walking over that bridge in Thurles. Once the final day, or we used to walk down to Park Grieve and that walk there down by the river. Great walks, and Jones's Road is definitely up there. I'm heading up the night before now myself. We were up the night of the semi-finals, and one of the things now we do is go to the Boar's Head on Saturday night just to see who's around. It's just full of hurling people. It's brilliant. Best weekend of the year anyway for me.
Absolutely. Before
we get into the game itself, what's your best memory of All-Ireland finals? You've been at a few.
I suppose my best memory is probably 1984. And Cork winning the Centenary All-Ireland in Thurles. I remember coming home in the car in 82 and 83. Jimmy Barry Murphy was my absolute hero as a child growing up. But going up from 82 and 83, bawling my eyes out in the car from Dublin back to Kilkeel, and then travelling to Thurles in 84 with my father. Being lifted over the stile, you were still able to do that, and seeing Cork win the Centenary All-Ireland, and it was just fantastic memory. My father being there, my brother's been there, probably even more special memory now, given my father's passed away and stuff like that, but yeah, hope I'm kind of living in hope that it won't be too long before I get to share a day like that with my own son. I'm still waiting on the Rebels making their comeback and getting up the steps of the Hogan stand again. But yeah, that would be my standout memory, from a very personal side, Barry, that 84 All-Ireland. I think the history and the significance of it in terms of it being 1984, and obviously getting to share it with my father. I think another special memory was probably the year that Tip stopped the 5 in a row, because there was so much talk about that at the time, and thing, you know. And then those of us of a particular persuasion listening to Pat Kerwick swinging the Galtee Mountain Boy from the steps, was special as well. But yeah, I think the whole occasion that day, in terms of the games that had led up to that point, you know, particularly feeling that maybe left it behind them the year before, Kilkenny going for 5 in a row, and you know, Henry and John Tennyson probably trying to do the impossible and playing with the ACL injuries, you know, probably just highlighted the significance of the day. And then of course, you know, large performance and the 3 goals and you know, just one of those occasions. And you know, look, Sunday will be one of those occasions as well, because either Limerick will kind of write their names into hurling immortality in terms of, you know, a 4 in a row, or indeed it'll be, you know, one of those days when Kilkenny defy the odds as only they can and stop a 4 in a row. So, you know, Sunday will be a big occasion in itself, and a historic occasion for that. And probably, regardless of the standard of fare on Sunday, the actual significance of the day will probably stick in people's memories after the game.
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad you brought up the 2010 one. That's one of my best memories. Yeah, what a day that was. Another one for me was, I'm a rare breed. I'm a tip man, obviously, but Clare fan as well. Both my parents are Clare people, and they're hurling people as well. So the 2013 one, I know it wasn't a great day for Cork people, that replay. But yeah, just seeing how happy they were, because you know, All-Ireland and Clare are fairly rare, you know. So
yeah,
that was I think that was some day as well. That was 2013 replay. Right, look, we'll get into the game itself on Sunday. So I've just wrote down a few things, and I have here the Limerick lineup. If Declan Hannon's fit, right, we don't know what the teams are announced yet. Now, who's going to lose out? Because Limerick were so impressive against Galway that second half, you know, or not even after 25 minutes of the match, they took over.
Yeah.
So, do you see any changes? Does Declan Hannon come straight in if he is fit? It's hard to see him being left out if he is fit.
Yeah, like it's probably the critical kind of thing ahead of the final. You know, is he fit? How fit is he? I think if they pass him fit, they'll play him from the start, because you know, you would always, if there's a doubt over somebody's injury, if you feel he's fit enough to maybe play, you'll start him so that you don't lose a substitute. Well, actually, if you bring him on as a sub and he breaks down, well, then you've actually used 2 substitutions, so to speak. So I think if they feel that there's mileage in him, they'll play him from the start. In saying that, I think it's a massive risk. You know, I get that it's not the same level of knee injury as Henry had or John Tennyson had that day, you know, but I think to start a man in an All-Ireland final when there are serious question marks around his fitness, not necessarily in terms of his match fitness, but his actual ability to play the game because of an injury, I think that's a big decision, particularly in light of the fact that of all of the teams at this moment in time, Limerick probably have, you know, the substitutes on the bench to offset that loss, particularly in light of the fact that, you know, they did so well in the second half against Galway. I suppose who loses out? Hard to tell. In some ways, you would have thought that, given how they played around the kind of the middle third, you know, would David Reedy be the one to lose out? Probably a wee bit harsh, but I'm not sure I'm seeing anybody else that they would potentially drop. Casey maybe wasn't brilliant against Galway, but yeah, it's you know, it's not only like how much hurling will Hannon have done in the last 4 or 5 weeks? Probably very, very little. You know, but his presence alone is massive for Limerick. So I suppose if he's fit, if they feel he can last the pace of the game, they'll start him. But you know, certainly the second half and how they performed against Galway, you would say that, you know, they don't necessarily need to take that risk, you know.
Yeah. The only thing that they might risk him if he's not, I'd say if he's 80%, he'd play. Like Richie English looks like he's out now, so it kind of.
Who looks like he's out?
Richie English looks like he's out.
Right.
supposed to pick up an injury at training. So while they have a lot of options off the bench defensively, they might not have given Sean Finn is out already.
Yeah.
So maybe that might I don't think anyone, nothing forces John Kylie's hand, but maybe if Hannon's 80%, he's such a key player as well that that's it. You're right to be hard on David Reedy if he lost out. He's hurling fierce well at the moment. So
yeah. But you'd have to say, Barry, he's not gonna drop Haggerty or Morrissey for an All-Ireland final, really. Like, you know,
not a chance. Haggerty played well the last day, and sure.
Yeah.
If Tom Morrissey has a good final, he could be hurler of the year, Ronan, you know.
Yeah. You know, he's not going to drop Galan for obvious reasons, and he's not going to drop, you know, Flanagan based on, you know, the number one, the way he's playing, but number two, what he brings to them in terms of a different approach and his physicality up there. So to me, if they're going to lose, if anyone's going to lose out, it's probably the kind of Reedy stroke case, or sorry, you know, Peter Casey kind of thing. You know,
or Reedy will lose out. Yeah. Two class players. Some positions
yeah.
all the same, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then just on Kilkenny then, like what are they going to do? How do they set up? So like they were last year was a right good game. Kilkenny were right in it up to the end. So what do they have to do? What way do you think they'll set up try and defeat them?
You know, I think Kilkenny will do what they always do, try to physically match Limerick, you know, and last year they did in terms of the battles, so to speak. I think they'll, you know, the one thing that I think Kilkenny have this year relative to last year is that they certainly appear to be scoring more goals this year. They certainly seem to have a greater goal threat. And if you think back to the All-Ireland Final last year, it was probably those couple of half goal chances that they left behind them that ultimately was their undoing. I think, you know, they'll try and kind of, you know, as I said, match Limerick physically. They have the defensive unit to do that. You know, Blanchfield, you know, Hugh Lawler, you know, Deegan. They're all big men and well able to kind of compete physically as well as in the hurling stakes. You know, Tommy Walsh back there is a physical player as well. So, you know, they'll be able to kind of match the physicality that Limerick bring to the table. I think they'll try and, you know, get the ball in to TJ. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see TJ positioned in around the full forward line on a fairly consistent basis. I know he's been dropping in and out of that, but if you think about, you know, where do you think that Kilkenny could get an edge? I think that kind of ball into TJ, either him winning it in the air or breaking the ball for Cody and that coming off him, you know. And the one thing that, you know, you have to give Kilkenny credit for, you know, leaving aside the fact of that they're excellent hurlers as well, is that, you know, just like Limerick, they have this ability that if their defence has the ball, they can just at times pocket up the field and they will, you know, invariably compete for it. Won't necessarily always win it, but their forwards will compete very heavily on that kind of 50-50 ball. So I think we're going to see on Sunday an awful lot of, you know, one-on-one contests on the ball, that kind of, I suppose, throwback to how hurling used to be. That's not to say that neither of the two teams will try work the ball through the lines when the opportunity presents itself, because they will, and indeed Kilkenny have shown a willingness to do that this year over and above what they've done previously. But I do still think that you'll see probably a lot more of those physical exchanges, one-on-one battles in the game on Sunday than you would have if for example, it had been Cork v Limerick in the final, or Cork v Kilkenny in the final, or indeed Tip in the final against, you know, Limerick or whatever. You know, I think both these teams are both well able to win their own ball, both well able to compete in the physical stakes. And I think John Keenan's probably the ideal referee for that as well, both in terms of how John referees the game himself, but also in terms of he's under no pressure around the assessors because he's retiring after this game anyway. So John, knowing John the way, well, he'll not give a damn about what the guys on the stands will be saying. And look, I think it's brilliant for John. We've been lucky enough through the years to obviously have come across him. as a referee, but I think it gives great hope to a lot of the referees that are in that kind of McDonagh panel and below, that there is a pathway for them over time, regardless of their home county and their home county standing in the All-Ireland Hurling Championship, to get an opportunity to progress through the ranks and get to the highest day. And so well done on John, and I hope he and his family enjoy the occasion. But I think he'll also lend himself to a very good game on Sunday, if I'm being honest, and his style of refereeing will help that.
Yeah, I hope so. John was, I think, doing the line for one of our games in Ballycran this year, and he has to retire this year. That's the rule, which is, I don't know. It's really disappointing that he has to himself and Paul O'Dwyer. I spoke to a referee, very prominent referee, not too long ago, about John Keenan and Paul O'Dwyer, and he said that they are two of the fittest refs out there. Two lads retiring, they have to retire. And I just think that if you're top of your game and you're fine and fit, like something needs to be done about this, Ronan. Like we're crying out for referees, like experienced refs. I think I know they get a lot of flack, Ronan, but I think we're lucky to have some really excellent young refs at the moment. Right, you've got Michael Kennedy in Tip, Kevin Jordan in Tip, Shane Hines from Galway, Sean Stack in Dublin. I know he's a Clare man originally, but he's a Dublin ref. Those four refs, I think they're Patrick Quirk from Carlow. They're excellent referees, right? But with Fergal Horgan retiring, and now John and Paul O'Dwyer having retired, there's a lot of experience being lost there.
Yeah.
Like just as we know, like your team needs experience on the pitch. The referees group are a tight group, and there's a lot of experience being lost this year. There's something's amiss there.
Yeah, no, look, I think it's the challenge, in terms of not having that level of experience. It does make a difference, even in the case of the experienced head, knowing to ignore the lunatic like myself jumping up and down and shouting from the sideline, and just to get on with it, But ultimately, I think hurling refereeing, because of the pace of the game, etc., is incredibly difficult. I think it does take an element of experience to get up to the pitch of the game, the same way that it takes a player a period of time to get up to the pitch of the game, and they need to learn their trade, etc. I think that one of the things is that I would we all get frustrated with Hawkeye. We all get frustrated with waiting for whether the ball's going over the bar or not. One thing on the refereeing stakes, Barry, that I think is, I'm not a fan of VAR in soccer. It drives me mad to an extent at Celtic matches, etc. But there is at times, is there a case for some element of a video replay or something for referees? You think back to this year's championship, and there definitely have been a couple of teams that have ended up on the wrong side of marginal calls. Now, when I say marginal calls, and I'll give you a prime example, the couple of goals that Mullane has got this year, or set up this year, with a high ball coming in, is he playing the hurley before the and if the referee saw that again, would he give it different? He may not, because it's a marginal call. You can argue, he has played the hurley, or you could argue, no, he's not. He's using the hurley to defend his hand. Similarly, the likes of the penalty that day in Limerick, if James Owen saw it again, would he still give a penalty? I think in some ways he possibly could, because Donoghue was doing as much as what Gal, So, but I do think there is a case in some of those things. Hopefully Sunday will be without controversy. But let's be honest, referees, and I say this as a manager myself, if I had a player who goes through a game only making 2 mistakes in a match, he's had some match. That's the reality. And yet we're all expecting the referee to be flawless. And I think that's very tough. Don't get me wrong, Barry, I'm as big a lunatic at times as anybody else when it's when it's going against me and shouting about free counts and everything, you know. And look, that's part of the game. That's part of the passion, and we all love the game or whatever the case may be. But you look at a prime example this year, even from our own perspective, you know, the day we played Kildare and the last free that, you know, that we didn't get or whatever. I remember coming off the field shaking hands with Shane Hines afterwards, and, you know, Shane explaining why, you know, he didn't give it. And I just looked, Shane, it's one of those 50-50 ones. You know, he could have given it, he couldn't have given it, you know, but he, you know, put it this way, he called it as he saw it. He didn't call it to do down, you know, out of a free, you know, and there's no referee doing that, you know. So look, hopefully Sunday's without controversy. It flies, and it's a great day for John and his family, because, you know, on a personal level, I know this obviously from Connolly and being my own cousin and being a close friend of mine. You know, it's a fantastic occasion for the family of the referee as well, and for his club and things like that. So, you know, and I think, as I said, John will do a really good job at something. I think he'll compliment the game.
Yeah, I look, I hope so. And the fact that it's his last game, we might have a repeat of the Munster final last year, maybe the title game, which would be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
Just one thing about last week in the football on Sunday, Joe McQuillan there was a potential time-wasting incident. Whether it was a head injury or not, I don't know, but Joe McQuillan wasn't having any of it. He just kicked it out, and I'd be interested to see what John does if someone's contact lens falls out. So what will he do? I think throw it in. You know, if he thinks they're trying to buy something, and it's an Owen Murphy or Nicky Quaid is trying to do it, throw it in. You know,
but every team's at it, Barry. You know, like
of course they are.
You know, like Nicky's getting the slack for it, because, like, if you think back to Limerick at the minute, you know, and where they are and stuff, like, they're in the exact same situation where Kilkenny were when they were going for 5 in a row, that everybody wanted them beat. You know, and they were over physical, and they were over, you know, and like everyone was delighted to see Limerick win in 2018. Yeah, you know, 2018 was brilliant. They hadn't won since 1973, and there was men crying in the stands and everything else. And lo and behold, 5 years later, everybody's sick of the sight of them almost, unless they're Limerick, you know. And that's the nature. That's the nature of sport, you know. And you had this whole thing about, you know, Nicky taking off the helmet and going down or whatever else. You know, let's be brutally honest. Every single inter-county team and most club teams are at that crack when the flow of the game goes against them.
It's smart management, isn't it?
Listen, it's part of the thing. Can you break up the play? Can you slow down the play? Can you give yourself a chance to get, you know, back on it again? You know, like, if you think about it, you know, if they were doing a review of the game and Nicky hadn't gone down, or Nicky hadn't made some attempt to slow down the play, and they were doing the video analysis, you can be damn sure that Kylie and Kinnerk would have been sending him on the Monday night or the Tuesday night. What the hell were you doing? We conceded 4 points in a row there, and you made no effort to slow the game down. You know, so let's not be over the top and criticising, you know, Nicky Quaid and Limerick and suggesting that in some way that they're practitioners of dark arts that nobody else is at, because that's something everyone's at, to try and break up the play. Now, I do think it'll be interesting on Sunday to see how that's handled, because of course, if you take off the helmet and you go down, you are initially either suggesting you've got, you know, an issue with a contact, or you've had a head injury, you know. But the danger of that is that, you know, referees throw the ball in and try and move on, and then one day somebody is down with a genuine head injury, and it becomes a problem. But I do think that come Sunday, if Nicky takes the helmet off, I'd say the ball be thrown in. You know, and that's as much because of the media and the noise that's been created about it as opposed to anything else.
It's daft to suggest that this is a Limerick thing. Like, it's only frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
It's only frustrating. It's frustrating if you're the opposition, or you want the opposition to win, you know. But like, I just think that they're the best management team out there at fixing stuff, and they do whatever they can. Like, they're just amazing. Not just Kylie and Kinnerk, but, you know, the other lads that are there as well with them.
Just happen to be cleverer than the rest of us, Barry, and we're all just jealous, you know.
They're unbelievable, just brilliant there.
They are fantastic.
Yeah, just so what else could we talk about? what's different this year between this year and last year? So I'm just looking at here. So Lynch is back for Limerick. Was very good when Limerick were struggling. Lynch was the one. If you remember, he got a ball.
Yeah.
One of the Galway defenders bounced off him and he stuck it over, and he was excellent after that. We mightn't see the kind of the wizardry that we've been seeing for the past couple of years from him, because he's linking a lot of play, and I think he got 2 points as well. But he was, I thought he was superb, Ronan.
No, he played very well, but I think, look, you've got to look at that Limerick game against Galway in the context that, Galway had a fantastic chance to go up by 8 points, and they're up by 5. They had a chance of a goal which was saved on the line. I'm not sure if it was an instinctive save or if it just hit the hurley, but it was saved. They came up the field directly from that play, it scored a point, and it was 4 points. I think if Galway had scored that goal, then you were looking at a very, very different game, because at that time Galway were totally on top and were looking fantastic in terms of the way they were spreading the ball into the corners, all of that kind of play. Limerick, just totally squeezed that kind of, I think it was about a 7 or 8 minute period before half time where they knocked over 4 points in a row. And all of a sudden, a half where Galway had done all of the hurling, they were coming in at half time only up by a point or something like that, there maybe a bit point, and then once they got the second goal in the second half, you just felt the game was over in many ways, and they put on the power play and they squeezed up on the Galway puck out. The one thing you would say about Sunday is that Kilkenny will have a lot better facility to win long puck outs if they have to go long, and like Galway, I think it was somebody put up your the guy that does the GA, or he's not allowed to call himself GA statsman anymore, he's Gaelic statsman, he has to call himself, but he put up the stats.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, he put up the stats of the semi-final, and he was saying that in the second half, I think Galway only won 2 of their own puck outs, and they were both short puck outs. The rest of the puck outs are something mightn't have been as extreme as that, but their puck out retention was on the ground, Barry, in the second half, and you can see that they just literally couldn't get their hands on the ball, or couldn't get their hands on quality ball in the second half. Like you think about the Kilkenny team, like they've got the ability to win their own ball, and the ball can be pucked out long. And yep, Limerick are strong under the ball, but so are Kilkenny, and they've got the option of bringing on Wally Walsh there as well, another big man to win ball. They've got TJ under the ball, Owen Cody can win his ball, Adrian, they've got options that can win that kind of high ball, which Galway didn't seem to have, and which allowed Limerick to press up and effectively turn the game. So, I think that while, Limerick's kind of strength and ability in that kind of middle third is obviously key to their success, I do think that Kilkenny have the physical attributes to match that and make that a battle far more so than Galway did in the second half of the semi-final.
With that, Ronan, it's worth noting as well that Peter Casey is back. I don't think Peter Casey was fit last year. Was he? No, for Limerick. So that's what's changed for them, and they don't have possibly Hannon, and they definitely don't have Sean Finn. Kilkenny have David Blanchfield this year playing really well. Tom Phelan is playing now, and Conor Fogarty is in the middle. So they have a little bit of change from last year. But just on, you spoke about long puck outs, bringing on Wally Walsh. Do you think he might start? I know he's been an impact sub, but thinking about it during the week.
Suppose it's a possibility to start. But I think, I think there's going to be a battle of attrition for a period of time on Sunday, and I think they're going to need to have impact subs to come on. It's a hard one. Personally speaking, I'd hold them off, and I'd hold off Richie as well. I think they're two good impact men to come on, because while Walter's a big man and certainly very, very good man to win high ball and win his own ball, once he shifts, like, he's hard to stop with the ball, running through as well. So as the game opens up a bit, he's certainly an option there to run to the net or and create a goal opportunity as well. So I personally speaking, I would hold off on starting him. I think I would go with what I had in the semi-final. I would bring him on. I think himself and Richie, they were cute enough to win a couple of frees, get a couple of scores at a crucial time when Clare looked as if they were coming into the ascendancy. And I think that bit of a cuteness and experience will be vital going down the closing straight on Sunday. Because everybody, there's definitely going to be a wee bit of additional nerves on Sunday because of the magnitude of the event and the opportunity for Limerick to do a 4 in a row, do something they've never done in their past, do something that probably only 3 teams have done before, or 2 other teams have done before them, write their names into hurling immortality. That in itself brings its own pressure, no matter how long you've played the game. So if I was Derek, I would hold off on Wally and bring him on. But then Derek's obviously a lot better at this game than I am, and this game I am, so he'll make his own decision on that.
Yeah, like you said, Richie Hogan, Killian Buckley to come on as well.
Yeah.
I just have a feeling that they might go with him. I don't know. They might.
And the thing, I suppose the positive from them is this: that they have options now. While last year, they looked bereft of options towards the end of the game. So I think it's going to be I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I do think it's going to be I think it's going to be a hell of a game. I think Limerick will clearly be the favourites, and for obvious reasons. But I think Kilkenny won't be far away, and don't be surprised to see Kilkenny do what they always do and sneak over the line and create a shock. There's probably no. To tell you one thing is for sure, Kilkenny will not fear Limerick. There'll be other teams will fear Limerick and talk about Limerick, but they certainly won't.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'm kind of coming around now to they might do it. Just on TJ's role, right? So we see how influential he was against Clare. If memory serves me right now, last year's All-Ireland, particularly in the first half, when Kilkenny were under a bit of pressure, he was excellent. Just whether winning frees, linking the play, which he does brilliantly. Will Limerick just play their own game, or do you think they might put someone on him the way Kilkenny did to Tony Kelly, because he is hugely influential?
It's a difficult one, like, if you were Limerick, would you not be saying, we'll let Kilkenny worry about us?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, when you think about it, like they rarely have gone down that path, so to speak, of worrying about other or the opposition, because clearly they're the top dogs, they're the team that's on top. I would be amazed if they went down that path. I think, time and again they've kind of shown their ability to manage it in the game if they need to. So I think if they find in the game that they're struggling or that they need to go down that path, then I think they'll slip into that mode very, very easily, as they've shown in the past before, and their ability to manage in game, so to speak. And you and I both talk about that quite a bit, Barry, around players' ability to manage themselves or to make the changes themselves and to adapt based on what game unfolds in front of them, or how the game unfolds in front of them. You can't coach that, and so to speak. That comes from experience. That comes from players leading in training, leading in matches, making decisions themselves, taking ownership. And I think that's one of the that's one of the things that's very noticeable about this Limerick team, is their ability to deliver on in-game management.
Yeah.
I get that people will argue about, there's messages getting slipped in from Kylie and from Paul Kenurick with physios and all that, and maybe there is, but I also think that particular group of Limerick players just know how to manage games as well, and how to adapt in games to what's some
Yeah, no, we give the Limerick management a lot of credit, but it must be said, like you said, their in-game management is exceptional as well. I listened to the Derry football manager, his post-match interview after the Kerry match. He talked about players. It's like coaching each other during the match. And I think if TJ was was really influencing the game, that you kind of trust the likes of Will O'Donoghue and Hannon to manage that themselves as well, because there's only so much we can do on the sideline as well. We can't see, we as a coach like you and a manager, you can't see what the players are seeing, really. So I think that's one of Limerick's great strengths as well, is their in-game leadership as well. Just on when you play against Limerick, so do you just go for it with them? So like, if you let's say you don't play a sweeper and you push up, right? But you're potentially leaving yourself open, as we saw in the Munster final when Mullane went to town on the Clare full back line. Or do you drop back, not necessarily sweeper, but just drop back a bit, but then you leave yourself maybe open to being punished from out the field by Kyle Hayes' runs, or Dermot Burns' shooting, or Hannon's shooting if he's playing, because they can be deadly accurate from distance.
Yeah, look, it's always a question: do you stick or twist, so to speak? I think Kilkenny will always defend the D, so to speak. So they'll always, they've always had that kind of style where they don't concede goals easily, or they tend not to concede goals. So I think they will drop back. I don't think they'll play a sweeper, but I think they will do what they've always done through the years, where they'll have somebody defending the D or dropping back. I think that will require their players further out the field to work even harder. But let's be honest, is there any team that works harder than Kilkenny? No, they don't, and like, they probably have a culture of this now built up over 20-25 years, where their outfield players and their kind of middle kind of eight, or more particularly their forward unit, come out and work very hard and can come back challenging for ball and fighting for ball, etc. So I think they will defend the D. I think they will try to ensure that they don't get exposed there. But I think they will offset that with their work rate out the field, which will be at a lot higher level than what we're seeing from what we've seen from some other teams that have played Limerick. I think the other bit that you'd have to say is that, when Hayes and these guys go to charge up the field, I don't see them charging up the field the same way unchallenged as they did against other teams. I think Kilkenny will physically hit them as they move. I think they will try to put a challenge, and they will look to do it. Like, I think, with the exception of the first minute last year where they got caught for the goal of Hegarty right at the start, they didn't really concede masses of those kind of overlap goals or running goals to chances in the final. So, look, I don't think they'll play a sweeper, because they generally don't play a sweeper. But as I said, I think they will play that kind of Kilkenny style over a period of time, where they defend the D, and they then offset that by how their forward unit and their midfielders work. And you even look at it in the Clare game, and you look at that fantastic block that Conor Fogarty made. Like they have, and there was a couple of times in the second half, was right back the far end of the field, and it was TJ Reid that was putting in the tackles and the hooks and the blocks. Like they have an inbuilt culture of work rate now over a number of years, to the extent that you won't get near a Kilkenny team unless you have that willingness to work hard, that willingness to tackle, etc. And that then gives them permission to then hurl and to show the very good hurling skills they have, because you know there's always this piece around Kilkenny. People talk about how hard they work, how hard they tackle and they do, but that maybe takes away from the fact that they're sublime hurlers as well. You know.
Excellent. All right. Call it. Who's going to do it? Who's going to win?
Yeah, look, it's hard to see past Limerick. You know, like I think you'd have to say that, you know, they're going for 4 in a row. They've taken every challenge that's been thrown at them this year. I do think, as I've said on an earlier podcast with you in a couple of, you know, I do think they're on a downward curve. I think they're coming back towards the pack again. I think if anyone can catch them on All-Ireland Day, it's Kilkenny. So I wouldn't be amazed by a Kilkenny victory, if I'm being honest. But I do think that Limerick will probably slip over the line by 2 or 3 points, but not by any more than that.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think Limerick will do it. They get their 4 in a row, and they'll start planning for 5 in a row.
That's it.
Unfortunately for the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Hopefully we'll have a great game. Enjoy the match, Ronan, and sure we might see you on Sunday.
Yeah, no bother. All right, take it easy.